If your brand has decent search volume on Google, chances are your competitors are bidding on your brand name, and it's really costing you thousands of dollars because your potential customers are being stolen by your competitors, whether it's intentional or not intentional. And I urge you to actually just do a test search for your own brand right now. Literally search up your brand and just see what comes up. If you start to see competitors showing above your organic results, you've got a problem, and it's something you can fix with a very, very low budget. And if I show you some examples here where we're looking for Asana, we literally see exactly what comes on the page is just monday.com with 3 images, site links. You're looking for a specific type of product or software, but the brand you're actually looking for doesn't even show up. Again, and that's the value of running these branded search campaigns, because again, if you just rely on the organic side, then you are not going to be able to show above people that are actually willing to pay money. It's very, very cheap to actually protect yourself, and MyProtein does a really, really good job of this, where you can see on the shopping side, they are making sure that they're protected and their own products are showing up because there's other competitors running ads on their brand name. And then also on the search side, there's no competitor listings here, but as we can see, again, MyProtein is running a search ad with specific discounts that it has. And then also there's the organic listing and Amazon listing below. So if we talk about some of the benefits that there actually are towards running branded search campaigns, number one is protecting yourself at a cheap cost to make sure that you're not losing customers. Because if you look at all of your efforts with Meta or TikTok ads, you are generating a ton of demand. And typically what happens is these people go ahead and search your brand name on Google. And again, because they're still in that stage where they don't 100% know if they want to buy from you and can easily be swayed by a competitor with a better offer. If somebody's running a 60-70% discount on their actual product, running that ad on your brand name with that type of ad copy, all of a sudden you've lost the customer. So you always want to protect yourself to make sure you're showing at the top, showing your most relevant offers and also the unique selling points as well as your brand. You're always going to have a super high click-through rate because these people are already looking for you. But again, you're just arming yourself with protection. And an additional reason why I think these campaigns are super valuable, particularly for new accounts, is because you're feeding Google with conversion data. When you start a new Google Ads account, it has no information in terms of who your actual ideal customers are unless it starts to look at competitors in the market and tries to piece together conversion data from that. But again, if you can run a branded search campaign at a very low budget, start to get some conversion data into the account, and then also upload a list of your past purchasers, all of a sudden it's armed with actually being able to go out and find new customers for your cold traffic campaigns on search and on shopping. But going back to the branded search function, now that we understand why we need to be running it in a campaign, how do we actually set it up properly so that we're not wasting tens of thousands of dollars and pretty much just paying rent or gifting money to Google? So if we go into an actual account we recently launched, we can see here we're not spending a lot of budget and our clicks are super cheap at 13-cent CPCs. And we have 2 ad groups. We have one with just the actual brand on exact match, and then the brand plus product in another ad group, also an exact match. And I only run exact match keywords on this campaign because what happens if you start running broad match, you start to match to competitors or non-branded terms, which completely defeats the purpose of a brand campaign because this is just supposed to be your branded traffic. So that's why we have these 2 ad groups to decipher these 2 different types of searches, and also exact match so that we don't show up for searches that are not relevant to this campaign. And as we can see, the engagement is super high. So of 10 people searching, 5.5 or 6 of these people are actually clicking on the ad for a 13-cent CPC and then 72 cents for the brand plus product. So again, and you can see the conversion rates are super high, blended conversion value cost is super high. And again, like we're not spending a lot on this campaign. This plays such a small portion of the account. Typically, I recommend up to 20% of our spend is allocated to branded. But again, in a lot of cases, I can set a campaign at $60 or $70 per day if we're running at a $10,000 per month budget. And we're actually not even spending that budget because of what I've implemented to actually get CPCs so low. Because you might be wondering, how am I getting 13-cent CPCs on an actual brand campaign where if you look, you might be paying $4, $5, $6. So I'm going to cover how we actually cut down on these costs so your brand campaigns can be efficient and you're really not burning money where you don't need to be and have more budget to actually allocate to non-branded campaigns. So now that we covered the ad group structure and the actual keyword match types I like to run, the reasoning that I'm able to get away with such low CPCs is because we run this on a manual CPC bidding strategy. Now, this is a little bit more of a legacy type of bidding strategy. If you ran Google Ads 10 years back, you'll know these were the days where we just ran manual CPC, but it has its function still, particularly for this campaign. And the reason being is because we're only optimizing towards getting that visibility at the top of the results page for as cheap of a cost possible. Because if we start to optimize for conversions where we're doing a target return on ad spend bidding strategy, Google is optimizing visibility to get us a return, which means that it might bid aggressively if it thinks people are more likely to convert. But again, these people are searching your brand anyway. You're capturing 90% of the or 100% of the market of people actually searching for your brand. So why do we need to optimize for conversions when there's really no more searches to unlock? When either way we can just bid $1 max just to show our brand name at the top and get the same results. And this is exactly what I noticed with a different account we onboarded. You can see here CPCs literally went from $16 when we were just optimizing for a target return on ad spend goal to literally $3. And you can see the number of clicks has remained exactly the same, if not a little bit higher, because we had a little bit more budget in reserve where we weren't spending a crazy amount per click. So again, that alone can save you thousands of dollars per month just by setting a max bid of $1 or $2 using manual CPC instead of relying on Google's automated bidding like target return on ad spend for it to go and achieve a high return on ad spend for this campaign. And by the way, it still does achieve a high return on ad spend regardless. It gets around a 10.5x. So for every dollar we put in, we get $10.5 back for this actual campaign. Again, I want to re-emphasize that we're not going after actual return here because these customers are likely to buy anyway, but we're here to actually protect ourselves. And in terms of the ad copy that I actually like to run, I like to pin a few different variations of the brand in the first spots here. And then in the other listings, we have highlights about the reviews or the unique selling points of the products, any limited edition products, who it's for, the actual avatar, promotions if we have, which in this case we don't. But you don't need to fill out 15 headlines. Really 5 to 10 high quality headlines with the focus on brand being pinned is the most important. And then we want descriptions to match pretty much what we were doing in the headlines. Something super simple if you want to just save time is you can feed Claude your headlines. You can tell it, make me 90 character descriptions for Google Ads for my branded campaign using these headlines that we have. And then it can give you some fantastic results as well so that you don't have to manually sit through. But a common misconception people think is you always have to have an excellent score. If we hover over, it's literally just the indication of the diversity of your ad in terms of how many combinations Google Ads can actually come up with. So if we're just optimizing to get as many combinations as possible, then sure, maybe it's a good thing, but it does not affect your actual ranking on the results page. This is strictly more so on the learning side for Google to be able to find different variations of headlines and descriptions to match searchers too. And the way that we actually measure success for this campaign type is we actually want to look at impression share. Search impression share is the indicator of all of these searches for the keywords that I selected, in this case, the brand campaign. How many do we actually show up for? Indicator of impression. And we always want this to be as close to 100% as possible for a brand campaign. I'll see it fluctuate between a 90% to 100%, but again, if we're in that range, we're definitely healthy. Now, again, if you don't have a 90% impression share, for example, and it's closer to 60 or 70%, you want to look at where you're missing out impression share. Why is Google not showing your ads 100% of the time? So that's where we want to add 2 columns where we go to columns and then we go to competitive metrics here and we add search impression share or search lost IS rank and search lost IS budget. Now, what these 2 metrics mean. This is an indicator of how many impressions, how many people you are not showing up for because of the rank of your actual ads. And then this is simply because you just didn't spend enough budget. So what I want you to look at is if this metric is at 20-30%, I would suggest just increase your budget for this campaign because that's going to be funneled into direct impression share. On the other hand, if you have a lost impression share rank, typically speaking, this is just going to be solved by increasing your bid, because what affects your actual ad ranking is, yes, your keyword quality score, but you're going to have a high keyword quality score naturally because it's your own brand. Google understands that. So if you increase your bid, maybe you have to spend $2 or $3 per click because your brand is more competitive and there's more people actually bidding. For certain industries, you inevitably have to bid more. But again, that is still going to give you more control than being on something like a target return on ad spend bidding strategy where Google is bidding $10 for your actual brand name. So this is really the indicators of success. Are we maximizing our impression share? How many potential searches of our brand do we actually show up for? And then are we actually getting visibility on the top of the page? So here we added the impression top percentage, how many times do we actually show in the top 4 sponsored listing spots, and then absolute top, how many times do we show up in that number 1 spot. And again, like we want this to be as close to 100% as possible. This is super healthy for a brand campaign, and these are really the indicators of success. And now we've basically established a campaign where we're just feeding Google with conversion data. We've segmented out our branded searches, and now we have designated budget to reallocate into our non-branded campaigns. So to summarize the key components of this campaign, we always want to be running manual CPC bidding strategy. In the campaign settings, we want to select that. We always want to be running exact match or phrase match queries. Typically, I like to run exact match with brand specific searches in one ad group and then brand plus product specific searches in another ad group. The max bid for both of those ad groups should be around $1 to $3, depending on the competitiveness of your brand. You can start with $1 and then really monitor impression share, which was that metric I was showing you in terms of how many of these branded searches do we show up for, and really use that as a throttle of if you need to increase how much you're bidding. So putting that max CPC to a $4 or $5 goal, worst case, or if you need to increase your budget, just because again, you're losing impression share since you are not spending enough money to capture all of the branded searches. And again, by having this campaign set up, you're making sure that all of the demand that you generate from Meta ads or TikTok ads is actually being captured by you and not competitors. If you have any more questions on how to set up the proper structure for this campaign, let me know down in the comments. And if you want my help personally to get this set up for you, book a call with me. My link is down in the description. And if you want to keep learning about Google search ads, then I suggest you watch this video, which talks about how to actually generate new customers using Google search and not just having it as a mechanism to target people that were already searching for what you offer.